This is Chicken Philosophy, Nag Hammadi, part lucky number 13, in which I will pick up right where Edward left off last time. In the tripartite tractate, or something close to that. I think I'm closer this week than I was last week, but of course, as with most episodes on Chicken Philosophy, I start by lighting some incense, just saying hello. A little bit cloudy this morning. It's I don't know, about 8 a.m. And yeah, I think it's clearing up. This is daylight, by the way. Yesterday, for those who saw that Gwydion Carl Jung episode, he had the new red curtains that were introduced, if you saw, in up to the 17th minute or thereabouts. Anyway, and the sun was shining brightly through them, so he was like red, completely red on this side. But today the curtains are open, and it's like hazy clouds, so not quite like yellow sun and blue sky, more like light gray sun in light gray sky. Benzoin is what we're going with today. And as for the beverage, we've got English breakfast, because if it was good enough for S.L. McGregor Mathers, yeah, it's fine, it's good. In a Pokemon cup as part of my insidious plot to get kids, thinking about heretical scriptures and stuff. No, nothing like that. Toys. No. I'm here to read this for anyone who doesn't have a copy and is curious, to lend my personalities and point of view, perspective, perhaps insight, perhaps not, perhaps just garbage that comes out of the mouth of a human being, whatever, however. I'll be putting a lot of that into, as I always do. That's the thing. So, if you're into it, you're into it, you're not, or something. That was an accent I was doing, and I did it very well. No, neither of those things are true. All right, but yeah, no, the questions that are on my mind today, and some people are going to be like, well, obviously. Yeah, you have a memorized definition, or paragraph, maybe a paragraph, or more. Maybe you're an expert. Maybe you're an expert in thinking that you already know the answers to these questions. But I'm coming from the standpoint of 30 years ago, I was pretty well certain I knew the answer to these questions. But today, I'm not so sure. It's that whole Socrates thing. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know anything. That kind of thing. So the questions are, what is Gnosticism? And that's a layered and kind of loaded question. The thing is, like, I always get a little bit irritated, and the guys I forget exactly who it is right now, but there's a popular YouTuber, Religion for Breakfast. I like religion. I like his point of view. I like to go a little bit deeper and riskier personally. Like, it's just a personal preference. But as far as approach, if that makes sense. Like, he knows a lot more than me about certain things. But I feel like I don't know what he does in his private time, but as for his on-screen persona, it's not like he's personally delving in and like, I was talking to this God last week, and let me tell you, like he just explains the God and who says what about it. It's good. It's fine if you're into that. But he had this one, Buddhism has many gods. And it's like, yes, if you're talking about Mahayana or Vajrayana. Not so much if you're talking about pre-sectarian early or Theravada. Or Zen, really, though you could probably find exceptions where, like, Zen masters use the names of gods in their koans or whatever. But I think that there's a let's put up the spectrum. That's fun. On one side of the spectrum, let's say this side, I don't know why, we'll put Jainism and Christianity, in that they're more about, like, they'll be more inclined to say all these many gods, Shiva, Zeus, whatever, they're not real. The only gods that are real and worth worshiping are human beings who are at once God and man, who are enlightened, who are fully omniscient, at one with their God self. That's what the Jainists and Christians would say. Later, the Christians kind of divided up, various times, really. Hence, there's thousands of different denominations today because of all the division. But early divisions included when Irenaeus said, a lot of stuff about Gnosticism, and then someone who looked up to Irenaeus named Athanasius in Egypt in the late 300s said all books are banned if they're about Jesus or God, and they're not Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, Corinthians. It's that list, the ones that ended up saved, that ended up in the New Testament. So there's a lot of people, and it's interesting because there's people who come from more of a Protestant background that'll say, indulgences are the devil, man-made, But those same people are convinced that not only is the Nicene Creed 100% accurate, which was the first church meeting of the church that everything it says is, you should question, but not the Nicene Creed, surely, and also not the selection of books that made it into the canonized Bible in the late 300s. Same church decided that. The same church that was doing the indulgences, and yet you stand by, like, there's people that are already like, oh, I'm ready for Satan to try to tempt me, that are watching this. I know, I see you out there in the audience, but they want to know about the enemy. They want to know what about the Nag Hammadi is, that they should be educated about how the enemy thinks, or some, I don't know, whatever it is. The ones I was winking at with my I'm brainwashing children with Pokemon and Gnosticism, jokingly. Anyway, no, but what was I talking about? I don't know, something. So, what we usually do here, after the incense and the beverage and the catching up, that's what I call that, catching up, is we read one paragraph of Living Gnosis. Oh yeah, there were questions. What is Gnosticism? How much of the Nag Hammadi is Gnosticism? That's the second question. And even the people who put together, like the people who put this book together are like, well, Sally, Larry says that it is, but Sally says that it's not. So it's an open question for you and I to look into. First, we have to know what is Gnosticism. And obviously there are many definitions and many ways to approach that, unless you only look at the narrow perspective on that. And there are going to be like people reveal a lot about themselves by how they would define Gnosticism, basically. So what is it? This is about it, apparently, but it's like a secondhand source written 30, 40 years ago, so I'm just throwing it in for fun, because I try to ignore most of the people that are still living or, were recently. Just preference, personal preference. I prefer people that have been beyond the veil for at least a century or so, give or take. As far as reading, no, Teilhard was, he's probably a century old anyway. Personal preference. And then, so the third question is, so what about it? What do we think about that? I'll arrive at my conclusions. You can arrive at your conclusion. But anyway, now we'll read a paragraph of this, Living Gnosis, A Practical Guide to Gnostic Christianity, by Tao Malachi. My apologies for my horrible pronunciation. I'm certain. Gnosis is the Greek word for knowledge, akin to the Hebrew word da'at. Let's bring up the thing. So there's a space in here that where there isn't any. I mean, sometimes there's a dotted line, but it's the abyss. It reflects Binah. Is this Binah? Am I looking at? Are you looking at Binah? So the abyss reflects Binah when you're coming across from Hesed. Silly hermetic Kabbalah stuff. Da'at, which also means knowledge. As this word is used among Gnostics, gnosis does not denote knowledge as we typically would think of it in our modern language, something intellectual or associated with the reasoning mind alone. Nor does it denote information gathered from outside of oneself. Yeah, I guess that, to come back to the original point, I finally kind of got a bird's eye view on what I was trying to say, is because I know that there are people coming directly from church, and after they finish watching this video, they're going to go back out and sing, like for whatever reason, such folk are drawn to the Nag Hammadi series. I don't know, and they often feel threatened and make rude comments and get blocked. It happens pretty much every time these days. It's weird. So for them, I just wanted to open up the questions of what is this bad thing that you're trying to know about and fight or something? I don't know. And how much of the Nag Hammadi is that bad thing, and how much of it is mistakes that were made by the same church that clearly made other mistakes, like indulgences. If you're going to be open-minded, and if you're going to follow Martin Luther subconsciously, automatically, robotically, then keep in mind that if you want to follow through with that logic, then you also have to question whether the Nag Hammadi is from the mouth of the Lord or not. You have to ask yourself that and look into it and decide, and ask the Holy Spirit and all that stuff. So you're welcome to do that, unless you're really annoyed by my personality, in which case maybe just, I don't know. You can go to a bookstore, find this, and just chill there and read it until somebody asks you what you're doing there, and then come back the next day and do it again, pick up where you left off. Just don't fold the corners of the pages, because that's obnoxious. Or no doubt it's free in PDF online. All right, so did we finish that paragraph? I don't know. All right. To a Gnostic, gnosis connotates spiritual and intuitive knowledge acquired from within oneself and one's own mystical experience. It is a knowledge gained through a holistic intelligence of the heart and soul, mind and body, a, quote, knowing directly. In the ultimate sense, gnosis is a state of divine illumination and indicates the embodiment of a higher state of consciousness than is typical in the ordinary person. In the broadest sense, Gnosticism is an accumulation of teachings that are found upon gnosis, or a path that leads to gnosis, and a Gnostic is a person who has acquired gnosis, him or herself. Well, I would say that most of the people who self-identify as Gnostic, well, surely everybody's had a gnosis or other, just like someone has had an enlightenment or other, but to say, I am enlightened, seems like saying, I have attained gnosis. If you have, good, keep it to yourself. You know God, good. Everyone else is still catching up. No need to brag. Why? I have achieved. What are you doing? You're trying to run a cult or something. All right, so that was Gnosticism. This thing we've been reading lately in Nag Hammadi Scriptures, the Tripartite Tractate. I don't know what we're going to read the introduction afterward, but personally, it doesn't feel very Gnostic to me. It feels very much in line with the rest of the canonized Bible, but we'll see. Maybe it'll take a left turn. All right. The Father reveals himself in the Son through the hymns of the mind, and that's H-Y-M-N. Him, not him. Never mind. That which he now made to rise like a light for those who had gone forth from himself, that by which they are given a name, that is the Son, the full and faultlessly perfect one. The Father brought him forth while he remained united with the one from whom he had gone forth. There's a little piece missing from the parchment. And then, receiving glory together. Something else missing, ... The all, according, bracket parentheses, to the ability, and bracket parentheses, of each one to receive, bracket parentheses, him, and bracket parentheses, lowercase h. I don't know if you guys are getting careless over there at whoever published this, but are we talking about God here, or what? Sorry. The Father, the Son. This is not yet his greatness that they have received. Rather, he exists only partially in the manner, the form, and the greatness that he is. For they are able to see him and to speak with regard to, bracket parentheses, what they, and bracket parentheses, know about him. Since they carry him and he carries them, and they are able to reach, bracket parentheses, him, and bracket parentheses, as well. Though, bracket parentheses, he, and bracket parentheses, remains the way he is, the inimitable one, in order that the Father may be glorified each and every one, and in order that the Father may be glorified by each and every one, and reveal himself. And being hidden and invisible in his ineffability, he is admired in the mind. For this reason, his greatness exalted can be revealed when they speak about him and see him, gratefully singing hymns to him, abound his abundant sweetness, about even his abundant sweetness. Next section is called The Ability of the Aeons to Procreate. Oh, well, we're getting a little Copernican. Maybe they weren't ready for this in 375. And so something missing at the beginning. That's always good. And just as the marvels of silence are eternal births of mind, so also the faculties of the word are spiritual emissions. Since they both belong to the word, they are ... something missing, and thoughts that are given birth by it, eternally living roots that have been manifested. For they are births that have issued from them, minds and spiritual births for the glory of the Father. See what I mean? It just kind of sounds like something you'd hear in church, you know? Like, anyway, technically heretical, but why? You know what I mean? They're all kind of different, I guess, is what I'm saying. And there is no need of a voice, since they, bracket parentheses, are, and bracket parentheses, spirits of mind and word, nor is there any need to perform, bracket parentheses, an action, and bracket parentheses, for what they desire to, bracket parentheses, do, and bracket parentheses, but in the same manner that, bracket parentheses, the Father, and bracket parentheses, exists, so do, bracket parentheses, those, and bracket parentheses, who have issued from him also bring forth all that they wish. And that which they think, that which they say, that which they move toward, that which they are in, and that which they sing as hymns giving glory, he has as Son. Bracket parentheses, S, and bracket parentheses. Maybe that was an emphasized S on the end of Son to like show that it's plural. He has, but it's weird that there's an S there. For this is their power of giving birth, as with the ones from whom they have gone forth, by mutual help, for they have been helping one another in the same way as those unborn. I guess, yeah, okay. I guess it's kind of like implying that son of God means thing that God created, one of his emanations, and it's all of us, man. It's you. And that might be a little Gnostic. So, but as for whether it's bad, I think that depends on where you're coming from. But I do think it maybe is a little bit Gnostic. All right, I'm going to keep reading. Where were we? But it's like, it's exoteric, heavy Gnostic. It's like walking into a like a Syrian Orthodox church, like full on incense and chanting, and you're like looking at the iconography on the walls, and you're like, wow. So this is a Syrian Orthodox church, and they're like, oh no, we were kicked out in 375. I'd be like, what? Why? And they're like, I know, right? Just because we said we're all sons of God. Oh, well, yeah, that'll get you kicked out in 375, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Okay, so the next part, it says the distinction between the Father and the Son. Oh, now they're on thin ice with the Trinitarians, I guess, in the early church. Now the Father, insofar as he is elevated above the members of the all, is unknowable and incomprehensible. His greatness is so immense that if he had revealed himself at once and suddenly, there we go, one of those texts, even the highest of the aeons that have gone forth from him would have perished. It's quite a text. Inappropriate. Ask permission first, God. That's all I'm saying. No. For that reason, he withheld his power. Yeah. Be smart about it, dude. Come on. And his impassibility in that in which he is, bracket parentheses, remaining, end bracket parentheses, ineffable and unnameable, transcending all mind and all speech. He, on the other hand, extended himself and spread himself out. It is he who gives firmness, location, and a dwelling place to the all. According to one of his names, he is, in fact, quote, Father of the all, end quote, with both F and A capitalized. They've been capitalizing you since before you were born. Kind of makes you feel special. And uncanonized. No. Through his constant suffering on their behalf, having sown in their minds the idea that they should seek what exceeds their something missing, I don't know, 3 dots, ... By making them perceive that he is, and thus making them, what? Yeah, and thus making them seek what he might be, he was given them as delight and nourishment. It's a cookbook for God. He's going to eat us. Oh, shit. He's gross. I know you're expecting me to say, just kidding, but I didn't say it. Oh, I'm just kidding. All right, where were we? The Father of all constant seeking, nourishment, yes. Joy and abundant illumination. And this is his compassion, the knowledge he provides, and his union with them. You know, when you eat a tuna fish, the tuna fish becomes just as smart as you are in much the same way. Kind of. All right. And what provides his union with them? And this is he who is called, and who is the Son. S-O-N. He is the sum, S-U-M, of the all, and they have understood who he is, and he is clothed. Sorry, nudists. Those branches of sectarian politics in greater Christendom might be disappointed by that line. This heretical text. Never mind. Oh, on the other hand, that is clothed in animal skin, like, oh yeah, this stuff. Like, maybe. On the other hand, that is the one by reason of whom he is called. What? On the other hand, that is the one by reason of whom he is called, quote, Son. The other, about whom they perceive that he exists, and that they have been seeking him. Still don't get it, but okay, I'll keep going. This is the one who exists as Father. Have you been watching Severance? It's a good show. And of whom one can neither speak nor think. He is the one who exists first. For no one can conceive of him, or think of him, or draw near to that place, toward the exiled, toward the truly pre-existent. But every name that is thought or spoken about him is brought forth in glorification as a trace of him, according to the capacity of each one of those who give him glory. I mean, bare minimum. I mean, that's just lower astral. If you get up a little bit higher, then he is the Word. I mean, literally. So the Word isn't just like a glimmer or a sliver. It's the whole fucking thing, and it's every word. That's a little bit higher in the astral. Then you can move beyond the astral if you want to. You can just play around there for another 100,000 lifetimes. It's not hurting anybody, except when it is, which it is at times. What am I talking about? I don't know. In the next section, I'll read one more at least. The Son as the name and the names of the Father. Am I on the same effing page with the author of the Paratype? Or what? Same page. Maybe I wrote this in a former life. Oh wait, there's only one life. We're in Abrahamic. Did they institute that at that time by then? The Son as the name and the names of the Father. He, however, whose light dawned from him, stretching himself out to give birth and knowledge to the members of the all. He is all these names without falsehood, and he truly is the Father's only first man. Well, that's with a capital M. Even worse. Sorry. This is the one I, bracket parentheses, call, and bracket parentheses, the form of the formless. The body of the incorporeal. The face of the invisible, the word of the inexpressible, the mind of the inconceivable, the spring that flowed from him, the root of those who have been rooted, the God of those who are ready, the light of those he illuminates. The will of those he has willed, the providence of those for whom he provides, the wisdom of those he has made wise, the strength of those he has given strength, the assembly of those with whom he is present, the revelation of that which is sought after, the eye of those who see, the spirit of those who breathe, the life of those who live, the unity of those who are united. Yeah, let's get together, gonna love one another. It's like, while all the members of the all exist in the single one, and as he clothes himself completely, and is his single name, he is never called by it. And in the same, unitary way, they are simultaneously this single one as well as all of them. Yeah, I mean, just to put it bluntly, if you look at the Torah, where is it? The Tanakh. It's here. You open this up, and in your King James that you're used to, no doubt, or your New Revised Standard, whatever. In the OT, a lot of times it says Lord, the Lord, Lord God, God. But if you look in here, sometimes it says El Shaddai, sometimes it says El, sometimes it says Elohim Gibor, sometimes it says Yahweh, the unpronounceable name, Yod He Vav He, as it's spelled out in Golden Dawn tradition. It's not attempted to be spoken like Jehovah or Yahweh or whatever. But anyway, what was I saying? So yeah, sometimes Yod He Vav He Zabayot, sometimes Elohim Zabayot, sometimes, all of these things, Yah. So, like, a lot of people will look at that and say, well, are they different gods? And in this tradition where this is, both you and God, kind of, this is the form of God, which is you, and the red one is on your right, but if you're facing it, you're facing another person, so it's on the left side. As you're drawing it, you get used to it. Anyway, according to that, whatever I was talking about, I don't know. Did I finish this section? Right, the names, right. They're all different. They're all the same. It's the same God. The same Holy Spirit moves through all of them, but the Son is, around there, but he came down to here and then went back up. The Father is, like, technically here, I guess, right? Not here. This is more like... It depends on the diagram you're using, but I was being kind of loose when I was saying that Kether is the Father. Kether is more like the all-present isness behind it all, where the impetus to make something is more related to the gray one. So really that'd be more like the Father, and this would be the Mother. Hopefully I didn't get all of that backwards. It's a little confusing because I'm looking at myself, and it's hard for me to remember which side it's going to look like for you. Anyway, regardless, let's see if by names, all members. Yeah, so they're all different names for God. So this is something that you're already familiar. I'm not talking to necessarily the usual people that are going to watch this. I'm talking to the people that come in at random. This is something that you're already familiar with. In other words, the idea that all the different names are the same. That Yod He Vav He, Elohim, Eloah, Yah, Jesus, Holy Spirit. They're all names for God. None of them are any less or any more a name for God. And to the degree, it's taken for granted to such a degree that every time one of these names came up, it just got translated as the Lord or God. So as you're reading it in English, it appears to be consistent the whole time. They're talking about the same divine name, as they say, the same God. But if you read the original, it's always a different title, a different address. Like it's like if you read 50 Shades of Grey, and in the first chapter she's calling him Sir, and in the second chapter she's calling him Mr. Grey, and in the third chapter she's calling him something I'd rather not say on such a wholesome kids show as Nag Hammadi on Chicken Philosophy is intended to be. No. I mean, if kids are watching it, great. I used to watch all kinds of shit when I was a kid. But it took a few folds in the brain before I became interested in something like Alan Watts. Like when I was never really interested in Pokemon. I was pre-Pokemon, but when I was interested in Smurfs, I wasn't interested in Alan Watts yet. You know what I'm saying? But I probably heard his voice around the house. Not that he was hanging out there, but maybe somebody was listening to him. Was he on the radio in the mid-'80s? I doubt it. Not on any of the stations my parents would have been listening to. KPFK or something? Probably not. I mean, he might have been on KPFK, but I don't think my parents would have listened to it. Let me just make sure I finished. I don't think I did. For he is himself knowledge. Right. All eternally at the same time. The names. All of them that which... Yeah. Something else. Notice he changed. I'm going to close there. I'm going to leave it to some future version of myself to figure out where to pick up where we left off, because I'm not 100% sure where we left off. But I'm 100% sure that I'm glad I did this. I felt like a couple of days had gone by. I was sort of debating about whether to do this or don the monk's robe and do Padmasambhava part 20. And I opted to do this. And I needed to get into a place where I wasn't taking it so seriously. Like it was a little bit of like a minor 1% preoccupation yesterday. I was like, yesterday was Valentine's Day, but I skipped the 13th, I skipped the 14th. Better to not be like working most of the day on Valentine's Day, right? And now it's the day after Valentine's Day. And so I was like kind of like planning, like making sure that I got this recording in. So I'm doing it early today. And then I can edit off and on throughout the day and work on other things and hang out and be present, not just in the office editing for hours. But I also didn't want to take it seriously. Like I want to find that zone, get back to the original chicken philosophy spirit, where I'm doing it entirely selfishly for myself. If there's someone out there that's enjoying it, great. That's great. Thank you. That's nice. I love, all the encouragement from people that enjoy it. But at the same time, for myself and for chicken philosophy, for the quality of chicken philosophy, being true to the idea, like David Lynch says, be true to the idea. And the original idea was that I was going to read these books here on this show, because these are books that I've wanted to read for years, decades in some cases, but have not been interested enough, have always been interested in doing something else. And so I'm making a point. I'm doing like a disciplined thing. Like I will read every damn page of these books that I've been wanting to read for decades. But in order to do that, I made the chicken wheel. I'm making it interesting by displaying different versions of myself while keeping my true and innermost self, shielded from any criticism. I'm taking all kinds of precautions, all kinds of riot gear, social riot gear, introvert stuff. So, speaking of the Mogen David. Sorry, that's like a really obscure thing to say, BT. The shield, it's like a shield, like a riot gear guy with a shield, and Mogen David is the shield of David. It's the flag of Israel. All right. Take from that what you will. Hope you're doing well. Have a lovely time. And you know what? I'm committing to this. Next time you see me reading something on the internet, the next new thing to come out will be, in fact, the next episode of the Padmasambhava series on Buddhist Books Podcast. Here's the playlist. Start wherever you'd like, the most recent or the beginning. The first two episodes were actually on my podcast, which you may or may not be aware of. If you're not aware of, then pay attention. Hey, my podcast is the Esoteric Nerd Podcast. Click through and subscribe. I'll wait. Welcome to my cult. No, welcome to, check it out. I don't know. You might enjoy it. Like, there's some episodes where I interview people. Most of them are like that. Until next time.